Hi, Kaushalendra. How are you?
Hi, sir. Good evening. I'm good. Thank you.
Good evening. I see Dr. Sastry has also joined. So we'll give a couple of more minutes, Kaushalendra, and then we'll start.
Sure, sir.
Hi, Sanjay. AVS here. Just wanted to
Hi,
say.
AVS. Good morning. How are you?
Good. Fine.
Good evening, Dr. Sastry. How are you?
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good, Dr. Sastry. Thank you for joining us.
So this is a group of IIT people or IIT Kanpur people, or what is the?
No. It isn't. Actually, it started off. There's a group which we have, Friends of Bharat to India Connect. That's where this started off. Kaushalendra just joined that group, which is basically a group of like-minded people trying to figure out how to help the villagers in various ways.
And where are you based?
We're based in Gurgaon, but the group of people are across the globe. You know, folks are in the US, in Europe, in India, etc. But then this meeting, which you're seeing, it's not just this group. There are far more. When we circulated in all the other groups, there's interest from various other groups, and there are people from US, Europe, UAE, of course, India. People who are engaged in agri-tech, AVS, for example, AV Sridhar has been ex-president of Wipro, my super boss, and he's very much engaged in developing AI-based agri-tech solution for crop prediction and yield prediction. Likewise, it's a lot of people. There's Sandbox, Raju Reddy and his team hopefully are going to be joining here, working with farmers extensively in Andhra Pradesh. So there's a huge spectrum of people who are engaged in one way or the other in terms of helping, figuring out solution, helping farmers in one way or the other. So I can send you the list once this call is over. I'll send it to Kaushalendra, and then we can. Maybe it's, by the way, Mr. Bhargav just joined Mr. Sastry. In fact, you were introduced to me by Mr. Bhargav last year before COVID. And he's how we started off engaging with you, trying to really appreciate what you are doing, essentially. I think we can start. We're almost about 8:30. If that's all right, Kaushalendra, shall we start?
Yes, sir, we can.
All righty. So basically, first of all, thank you everyone, essentially. This is very early in West Coast of US, East Coast, Europe, afternoon, UAE, and in the evening, and of course, India. We are stealing time from dinner for most of the people in India. So thank you very, very much for joining us. I think it's really a pleasure to organize this, because it's very seldom that you get to speak to a gentleman like Dr. Sastry, who has enormous contribution to Indian villages as well as farmers of India. The way we are structuring this whole discussion is, after the intro, Kaushalendra will give you an introduction of Dr. Sastry in a little bit more detail. He's going to talk about CCD a little bit and introduce CCD and FarmVeda. CCD stands for Center for Collective Development, which Kaushalendra is the CEO. And it's the brainchild of Dr. Sastry. So he's going to give you a little bit of an introduction for 5 or 6 minutes. Dr. Sastry will then speak about CCD and FarmVeda and how he has organized farmers and what he's doing for about 35 to 40 minutes. And we'll keep 10 to 15 minutes at the end for question and answers. I think you will have a lot of, I presume that you're going to have a lot of questions for Dr. Sastry to really understand the model which we're doing. So first and foremost, for setting the stage, as far as I'm concerned, in my head, particularly from a farming community standpoint, there are, as all of us know, depending on which government data you believe, anywhere between 120 million to 140 million farmers in India. And if you talk about small and marginal farmers, different data point, 100 million to 120 million. if you, from a NABARD financial inclusion survey perspective, the small and marginal farmer, the income per month is 2,500 rupees a month from agriculture. And they are supporting, again, going by NABARD's data, 4.9 family members. So we're talking of anywhere between 500 to 600 million people dependent on small and marginal farmers. I mean, that's the focus as far as my is concerned. Now we can do what we want to do in India. We can have thousands of unicorns. We can do what we want, make in India, et cetera, et cetera. If we cannot uplift this 600 million people, India is going to be an underdeveloped country for a very long time. So we really need to figure out models which can help uplift this 600 million people. And I think Dr. Shastri has done incredible work. It's pretty much in my head, in my view, it is one of the best models, which is really a replica of Amul model, what Amul did in dairy farming. Dr. Shastri is doing that with the agriculture. So that is really the model, but it is with 14.5 million farmers, 120 million farmers, 40,000 farmers is a very small, drop. Now, how do we scale it up? That is the question in my mind. So it's really people like us who can really take this model in wherever we are living, essentially. And that's where I think the whole discussion, it is, one of the objectives of this meeting is to really seed the idea in people who are here in this call to see how they can really take this model, what Dr. Shastri's absolutely amazing model, what he's developed, and take it to places where we are. With that, let me hand it over to Kaushalendra. Kaushalendra, over to you.
Thank you, sir, for this opportunity. So I'll introduce Professor Shastri. Actually, he has done his bachelor's in technology from IIT Delhi, and then he did his MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, and he did his PhD from MIT Boston. And then he came back and started teaching in IIM Ahmedabad first. 2003, he moved to IIM Bangalore. He was dean there in IIM Bangalore, and right now he's a faculty. When he was in IIM Ahmedabad in 1999, he started another NGO called Association for Democratic Reforms, which website is idrindia.org. Main vision was to bring political reforms. So basically, because of their effort, now every politician and political party has to give an affidavit about their income, their criminal records, and their educational qualification. So that actually helps us as citizens to know our politicians and political party. In 2003, when Professor moved to Bangalore, he started Center for Collective Development, for which we are going to talk today. Center for Collective Development basically is trying to replicate Amul model for non-dairy farmers. Amul has done a lot for dairy farmers, and we all know they are now prosperous and they are getting in a decent amount of earnings. But same model can be replicated, and Professor Shastri has shown from 2003 till today. Right now, we are working with 40,000 plus farmers in 4 districts where we have created FPOs for basically we work in cooperative model and federations. So those 40,000 farmers are now self-organized. The difference which Professor Shastri has made is basically bringing the farmers at the center of it, making them owners, and then training them how to do business and how they can increase their income. So that's what Professor Shastri will discuss. For his work for Association of Democratic Reforms, Professor Shastri has been awarded various awards. He has been the outstanding contribution to national development. He was awarded by IIT Delhi Alumni Association in 2005. He has got Distinguished Alumnus Award from IIT Delhi in 2012. And he has also been awarded by IIT Kanpur for Satyendra Kumar Dubey Memorial Award. So I think now we can engage Professor Shastri. And initially you said, I am the CEO. Actually, I am taking care of the Farmveda brand, which is like Amul, which is working across the FPOs we are working, where we are basically mainly focusing on value addition of the crops. So our farmers in Anandpur, they grow peanuts. So Farmveda makes peanut-based value-added products and sell. So my responsibility is to grow this brand Farmveda and value-added products. Professor Sastry has been handling the operations of Center for Collective Development's entire this time. So he is the person who has been actually has the vision how to do it and has helped us execute that as well. So I think now we can engage Professor Sastry on the discussion.
Shall we begin? Sanjay ji?
Yes, Dr. Sastry, please.
So it is honor to be with all of you, and it is a little daunting because such a distinguished group all over the world, and thanks to Kaushal also for that kind introduction. So Sanjay has actually given the basic motivation for what we are doing by throwing up the numbers that if we want to make India progress, there are 500 to 600 million small farmers out there, and nearly all of them are in distress. This is not something that is being cooked up. This is the government statistics. So that was the basic motivation. We wanted to work at scale. We have not achieved that kind of scale. And we wanted to make a lot of people prosperous. And we found that once people are prosperous, it's a win-win for everybody. Because health, education, etc., which we are worried about. Right now, the model is through subsidy, but people can take care of their own lives like all of us are doing in this group. So that was the motivation. And it began with a 1 year, you can call it 1 year off or a sabbatical, where one went to the villages of India full time to see directly what is happening. So this was, I was not interested in armchair exercise and a strategy and a plan, but interested in actually doing the work. So going village to village for 1 year and being associated with various NGOs and a large anti-poverty government program. And of course, talking to people like Dr. Varghese Kurian, who was still alive at that time, and being inspired by the Amul model and studying it not through the books, but actually going and seeing what is happening is what led to our setting up this Center for Collective Development. So our basic question was that if this model of Amul is so successful in the dairy sector, what about the non-dairy sector? It had been left, it was a big gaping hole, you may say. And after some thought, we decided we will work in areas which are more poverty-stricken, because that is where the distress is. So in farming, the poverty, see, one thing like Sanjay also mentioned, I would give you some broad overview and then come down to the brass tacks. About 70% of Indian agriculture is rain-fed. It is not irrigated. Now, difference, like heaven and hell. Zameen aur asman ka farak hota hai. When you have water, you can get 2-3 crops, and each crop is bountiful. I beg your pardon? Yeah. So
can all others please mute? Can all others please mute their phones, please?
So if you have good rainfall and good irrigation, you have you take 2 crops in India. They call it Kharif and Rabi. Sometimes you are able to take out 3 crops also. But we are working in the rain-fed areas where there is only 1 crop per year. And that is because there is no irrigation, the rainfall is erratic, we are working in semi-desert regions, etc., etc. And as Sanjay also put up that number, their incomes are extremely low. So they go for migration. Unfortunately, when there is a drought for 2-3 years, they commit suicide. All these problems are there. So we wanted to work in these areas. Now, what is, I will talk about, so the motivation and vision we have kind of covered. If there are questions, we will take them. And then where are we today? Where do we want to go, and what is our model? That is broadly what I would suggest. And it is really a blessing for the farmers and for us also that such a distinguished group is interested in this issue. So where we are today is that after 15 years, we are at about 40,000, 45,000 farmers, because the numbers keep growing almost every month. And we are in 4 or 5 districts. And the model is very simple. Model is not to do only charity. Actually, we don't do any charity. So where does this model come from? Of course, apart from Amul, the model is very simple, that the food industry and the food companies are doing quite well, very well in India. So there is money in the agriculture sector, but the farmers are not doing well. So why is this so? So all these stories are there. Tomatoes are 2 rupees, we buy it at 30 rupees. Mungfali or groundnut farmers get 50 to 60 rupees. And fried peanuts are 300 rupees, and so on and so forth. Even this atta is 30 rupees, whereas the government gives a subsidy and MSP of 18 rupees. And if you make biscuits and pasta and suji and multigrain atta, etc., you can get 50 rupees, 100 rupees, 200 rupees, 1000 rupees per kilo. So that's what the companies are doing. I'm not against any of the companies, but what we are saying is a fair share of that value should come to the farmers, because there is money out there. It's not that there is no money. And what can we do to make this happen? So Amul showed the way, because Amul not only buys milk from its members, it makes dahi, it makes ghee, it makes butter, the most famous, it makes cheese, it makes ice cream, and so on and so forth. So they make a lot of value-added products. And so the value realized is much higher, and all the money goes back to the farmers. So that is basically our model. That so let me, because this is a very distinguished group, I will go back one step and look at the strategic model which Amul did, and it is very similar to what we did. There is a farmer-owned organization called Amul. And by the way, Amul is in Gujarat, but right here in Bangalore, where I am, in Karnataka, they have this thing called Nandini Dairy. So Amul is a 50,000 crore plus company, and it is about 4 or 5 times bigger than the biggest multinational in India, which is Nestle. Nestle is the world's largest MNC, but it is a fraction of the size of Amul in India. Now, why is the reason so? It's not only about management. The reason is that 85% of all the profits, not all the profits, 100% of the profits go to the farmers, but 85% of the value of the milk goes back to the farmer. And that milk is not 1 rupee. If it is about 1.5 to 2 rupees because of ice cream and butter and cheese and ghee and all the value-added products they make. Nestle is not willing to share that amount of profit with the farmers because it is a profit-driven company. So we said that let us start from the ground level. So we are a ground-based organization, and we are happy to collaborate with Agritech and other institutions, but we work in the ground. So our model is that in these 4 districts, we have about 80, 90 staff. Some of them are already there. I can see Natraj and maybe others, Vittal Rao and others who are working with us. They are also on this session. And they are highly dedicated, committed people who live in the villages. And we have daily contact with the farmers. So we have field officers who, each field officer has 8 or 10 villages that he manages. And of course, there is a district manager, there are processing units. We have 4 or, actually, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have at least 7 processing units to add value to the products. And our focus from day one is, where is the money? Paisa kahan hai? So basically we were marketing focused. We have added other things, but marketing focus means how to make more money out of the farmers' produce. So the model is that instead of selling their produce to Aarti, Dalals, middlemen, if I have to put it a little bluntly, khoon choose, makki choose, in Hindi we call it khoon choose, makki choose. These fellows cheat them at the time of buying. And about 15 to 20% of the value is reduced of the revenue. And if you look at it as a percentage of the net income, because a low margin thing, more than 50% is taken away by the cheating. So we first plug that gap. So how do we plug that gap? It's very simple. Every village has 40, 50, 100 farmers. We organize them, we train them. We tell them that, why don't we all get together and do it? They all agree. And they don't sell it to the Aarti and Dalal and Makki Choose or Khoon Choose. They sell it to, they give it to their own cooperative. So the essence of a cooperative, if I have to put, one has to quote Abraham Lincoln. A cooperative is of the farmers, by the farmers, for the farmers. Like of the people, by the people, for the people. So then we enable that to happen, no doubt. We teach them about quality checks, about how to weigh, how to transport, and a little bit about marketing, etc., so that they can do it better. So we started bottom up by first removing the middlemen and selling it to the local millers. So that started bringing in profits. And then we said that since we don't believe in charity, we said that let us do some processing. So that's how these 7 processing units have come up. So simple example is मूंगफली जो छिलके में छिलका निकालना, just deshelling the groundnut, grading and sorting, that adds value. So it goes from 60 rupees to 100 rupees. Of course, there's a loss of weight because a lot of the weight is the husk. And now we are selling it to Reliance, More, Big Basket, Flipkart, and various other big corporates. And they're very happy to collaborate with us because they also want to show that they're doing something for farmers. Of course, they are very cutthroat in the negotiations and the pricing that they give us, but there is a reasonable profit to be made. Now, what is the model of governance? That is also important. CCD and Kaushal do not govern the cooperatives. We enable them to govern themselves. So every month, for example, there's a board of directors. So every village has a small committee, which they themselves select, and they are not paid, they are honorary. And during the season, they come to a village center, and every farmer in that village who's interested comes and brings the produce there. It is weighed, qualified, etc., and they are given a receipt. And then that village cooperative sends their produce to the district union, which is where the processing happens. So मूंगफली का छिलका निकालने का जो unit है, now the third one is coming up. I'm just talking about मूंगफली. There are similar models in other districts. So then it is processed, and there's a board of directors at the district level who are selected by the farmers from the villages. So the district presidents of the villages say, earlier everybody who was a district or a village president used to be on the board of directors. Now in one of the districts we have some 400, so you can't have a board of directors of 400, so they have made a board of directors of 12 to 15, and we act like the election commission there. That means we ensure that every year, the board is renewed. It doesn't mean that the guy has to get out. The same person can also continue, but the people have to decide whether he has done a good job or not. And then these board of directors meets every month, and they take all the operational decisions. Whom to sell, how to sell, the money, financial. We of course enable it. We have accountants, we have auditors, we have IT systems to make sure that everything, all the data is available. And the other big thing that CCD does is connecting with the big buyers. So we have a challenge there because the other millers, they do zero business. In the local language, they say zero business means they don't pay any taxes. They don't pay the electricity bills. They do cash transactions. They cheat the farmers and buy at a lower price. Now we have to compete with these guys because our costs are higher. We pay all the taxes, we follow all the rules and regulations, we pay our electricity bills, we pay all our other taxes. And at the same time, we cannot cheat the farmers because the purpose is not to cheat the farmers. So the only way to beat that game is to do better marketing and higher realization. So that's how we got into selling beyond the local markets to Bombay, Bangalore, Hyderabad. For many years, we were exporting. If there are questions, I'll tell you. Briefly, we have stopped at exports. And then we said that how can we do further value addition? That's where people like Kaushal come in. So we set up Farmveda. So Farmveda is our equivalent of Amul. So the simple logic is groundnut sell for 60 rupees, peanut butter sells for 500 rupees. That's it. So why can't we make peanut butter? Why can't we make salted peanuts? Why can't we make chikki? Why can't we make peanut oil, etc. So we have started doing that. And there's a host of other products. Kaushal will tell us. Kaushal joined us about 2-3 years ago. And I want to appreciate him also because he's from IIT Kanpur. He was very successful in his career. He also had his own, he still has a startup, but he left that startup and he says that he will work with us full time and took a 50% cut in his salary, which is quite a thing. And of course, we have to acknowledge all our other people, Natraj, who I can see here, and Vittal Rao, and Shankar, and Bhaskar, and so many others who are working with us with full dedication in the districts and in the villages. So that is where we are, and that is what the model is. And I'm sure there are questions. Now, where do you want to go? It is like an ocean. Where do we want to go? We want to expand as much as possible. What are the constraints for expansion? On one side, it is funds. Basically, it is funds. There is nothing else. The model is well tested. We require funds and we need help in reaching markets. And just to give you a number, we talked about Amul. In 1970s, NDDB, the National Dairy Development Board, launched something called Operation Flood. And in the 70s, their corpus, you can check it on their website, was 3,500 crores. We are operating with a budget of 2.5 to 3 crores. So maybe that's one of the reasons why we have not been able to expand. So where is 3 crores? And we have not got any funds for CCD for the last 2 years. COVID, this, that, and the model of the donors is now changing to corporate, agri-tech, some fintech, some app which will send message from some satellites, all that. गांव में काम करने के लिए उनको समझ में नहीं आता ये donors. So they want something very fancy and very this thing. It's not that we don't use IT. I'm not a Luddite. I've been to all those colleges. But that's how the donors are, and they said all the money is committed to COVID. So we are in a bit of a crunch, let me admit it. But fortunately, some people here and there are coming forward to help us. So that's the reason why we have not been able to scale. So I think one can go on, but let me pause and let us take some advice and suggestions and questions. And then I will continue after that.
Professor Shastri or Dr. Shastri, I don't know whether, but both are probably right. I have a question, right? And I'm called AVS. My name is A.V. Sridhar. First of all, you said you got 4 districts. Now, is it spread over different, what do you call, areas in the sense different states? Or is it focused on Andhra Pradesh or Anantapur, you basically mentioned for groundnuts, peanuts?
See, we are geography agnostic. We are right now in 3 states, because out of the 3, 2 are bogus in the sense, Andhra and Telangana, and Maharashtra. We made some serious attempts to get into Chhattisgarh, but we were not able to raise funds for it. And we are doing some work in Jharkhand through a friend and a partner. We are hoping that if we get some funds there, we can expand in Jharkhand. And we are again holding our breath about Madhya Pradesh. So Kaushal is himself from Uttar Pradesh. So we certainly want to work in Uttar Pradesh, but we don't want to spread ourselves too thin either. It depends on the funds. See, if NDDB had 3,500 crores, they could go all over the country, with the kind of fund.
Don't worry, you're talking to a person who is basically also really put my own money and I've really started the agri-tech. So to that extent, I completely understand this thing. What appeals to me from what you're trying to do, and I'm not very sure whether it's going against what, or it's going in the flow of what government is doing, where you would like to really basically remove the adatiyas or the middlemen so that the farmer gets more, which is basically the intention of, I suppose, the new law, which of course didn't go through, etc. I'm not getting into all the political issues. The question, and you are down to the ground and working with the farmer, which is basically what I like. I mean, I think from that perspective, it's absolutely, that's the tough part. I mean, to talk from a podium is different, but to really work at the thing, because our few experience which we have definitely find that that's where the real problem is and real issues for corporates are. So to that extent, I'm completely with you in terms of your thought process. But the question is that this process, I know Amul is, started, etc., and isn't it a very slow process? How can you speed it up? One, of course, is corpus, but other than corpus, is there any other methodology which you have thought through or one can think through in terms of really scaling faster? Because that's what the game is nowadays, right?
Very good question. I don't know how much more I can say, that instead of 3,500 crores, we don't even have 3 crores, which is less than 1,000 times. And most of the other NGOs and the 10,000 FPOs that the government is proposing and promoting, they don't want to touch the business aspect and the marketing aspect. See, the business and the marketing aspect is the most important, in my opinion. But the benefit of the business and the profit should go to the farmers, not to the investor. That is what Amul achieved. Now, today, where we are, since we're talking about today, the ideology today is that private sector investment will solve all the problems. We can go on debate. I don't want to get into ideological debates.
Sure.
Second is the donors and NGOs and the development wallahs who want to help society in a sort of a grant or this thing, they don't like business. They educate kids, serve the people during COVID, do some healthcare. During flood and famines, you distribute blankets and all that. They want to see humanitarian work, charity work, service work. They don't see institution building as worthwhile. So we are caught between the two. Now, in terms of scaling up, there is no challenge in scaling up. Absolutely no challenge, because we got phone calls from all over the country after that Lalan talk. Farmers saying, sir, hamare paas aake kaam kariye. Are bhai, if I have to go to Rajasthan or I have to go to Punjab or wherever, or Bihar, Bihar is another area. We need 50 lakhs, 1 crore in 1 year to something started. No business starts just like that. We have to put 4 or 5 people. We have to start the operations there, open an office, buy 4 or 5 motorcycles. It requires money. We don't have that money. So how do I scale up? Now, in our areas where we are working, I just talked to Shankar. I think Shankar must be also on this. He is our manager in Anantapur. I was under the impression that we had 20 or 21,000. He says the number has crossed 25,000 because we don't need staff there. When you reach a critical mass, farmers are coming forward on their own. Sir, we will also join. So if we create a critical mass, it grows by itself.
Phone the voice.
If I have answered you or not, but that's the only response.
The question is, if you're saying that you're able to give the farmer a good return.
Correct.
Okay, where you can say that, He otherwise would have got 60 rupees. And probably now with peanut butter, he's getting 600 rupees or somewhere in between 80% of that 600
rupees. We are not yet there. We are moving in that direction.
I understand that. I understand. Is there a possibility where you can, like a microfinance, collect money from the farmers themselves as a cooperative, where you will get some corpus, may not be 3,500 crores, but increase the corpus a little bit. And there will be some amount of, stake by the farmers, because they have also basically put in money. And I know, of course, your answer will be, oh, farmers are all poor. They are only getting 2,500. I mean,
we have raised money. Okay. This is a no-brainer what you're saying. We do that.
Sure.
I'm sure there are other people who have thought about it and they'll have questions. So we'll take other questions.
Okay.
Our farmers cooperative has more than a few crores of their own funds, which they have themselves.
Yeah, because
we are very clear that farmers have to invest. It's a slow process. If you say, well, there are 5,000 farmers, each one of them give 1,000 rupees and you have 50 lakhs, it doesn't work like that.
I agree.
If somebody can do it, I am willing to. It takes time to do that.
Okay.
So
I'll stop here.
Let our processing units is that we have taken external loans and sometimes grants to set up those processing units. 50 lakhs, 20 lakhs kind of units.
Have you explored World Bank loan or IMF loan?
No, sir. World Bank basically. Get it for us. It's a long subject. See, we are not. We are not Luddites. I have worked with the World Bank. I know the United Nations. I have lived in Boston. I know all these things.
Sure.
So let's not get into that.
Okay.
Those guys are not going to budge. And in India, the World Bank has a bilateral agreement where they will only, the government of India refuses to allow the World Bank to give money to NGOs. They only give money to the governments. And the Asian Development Bank and the other international IFC, they only give money to profit-making private sector thing because that is their ideology. So let's not get into that discussion now.
Okay.
So, Professor Shastri, I think the bottom line, AVS and what I see is that is really a challenge. If you see number one problem as far as farming sector is concerned is actually credit. Whether what we are talking about, Dr. Shastri, is really a credit-related issue in terms of scaling up the model. And so is everything else in farming, essentially, whether it is technology adoption and all. I think that is what we need to, AVS, I think that is what we really need to go and figure out. Is there a...
Let me tell you, you're talking about credit.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt for a minute?
Yes, please go ahead.
If you go to Canada, I had the chance to go there 2-3 years ago because some friend of mine invited me for some event there and he paid for it. I mean, that conference paid for it. Farmers in Canada get loan at 4%. Routine. The paperwork is very simple. Here, ulta latko, naak ragdo, murga bano, mere ko pranam karo, isko bribe do, and at the end of it, you get 22 to 24%. And hopefully, the government will give you a loan subsidy and loan waiver after that. This is a completely bogus system. The interest rates are just too high in India. And the banks, I have gone to, my classmate is the MD of ICICI. My cousin is the deputy managing director of State Bank of India. I have talked to, and in earlier days, I have talked to other big shots, including the chairman. I was on the board of NABARD. They are got a framework, a rigid bureaucratic framework. It will not allow them. Nobody's got the guts to go beyond that and provide that credit. So what do we do? No, I'll tell you what. Why do you need credit? You have enough profits. You plow them back. So our indebtedness of the farmers of Anantapur is already come. But like Mr. Sridhar is saying, it takes time. But if we can get low value credit, we'll take it. We have no problem.
And I think actually that is probably, AVS, I think that is the problem essentially. If I see, even from technology adoption perspective, what we're trying to do, I think credit is definitely number one issue more than anything else. And that's what we really need to put our head together essentially. I don't see Nipun Mehrotra today. I think he's trying to build a model around farm credit. Still some ways to go, but at least that is something which we really need to sort out. Even
Sanjay, I may slightly disagree with you on this. I'm sorry.
All right.
Because proposing a solution and we say that is our way forward, we can look at other situations. You see, there are n number of people who have returned from Goldman Sachs and London and all those international companies whose heart is bleeding for the poor, and they set up agri-tech and agri-finance and fintech companies, and half a dozen of them have come to my office to meet me. So if you cut through the rubber, to the top, 22 to 24% is the minimum interest rate that they are willing to give. In some cases, they are willing to come down to 18%. And for a I'm not talking about our NGO, I'm talking about the sector in large. The amount of collateral and this thing. And so I went to ICICI. ICICI said that they will give us a loan. You cannot imagine the terms of the loan. You cannot imagine it. See, they are bankers. They are not entrepreneurs. They are not bold decision makers. Itne sare, I mean, they said you give us a post-dated check. You give us, put the entire property of this thing, which is worth crores, because the land appreciated in this thing, as mortgage to them, give the original papers to them, and it will take 6 to 8 weeks. Now we need the money today. So the best I've been able to do is we get credit. We are not operating without credit. We get credit from NABARD, we get credit from ICICI, and we get apart from Ananya. So we worked out something like a CC limit, and before the season, they're able to respond faster. But they're not able to raise it from the 1, 2, 3, 5 crores that we are able to absorb, I mean, that we get, to 50 crores. 50 crores dene ke liye nahi hai. Now, Flipkart comes to us. Flipkart came and said, why are you giving us only 5 crores? We'll buy 50 crores. Our farmer said, yes, we will provide you 50 crores, but let us get into a signed agreement that you will give us 50 crores of business. We can't procure 50 crores and tomorrow, you have some other this thing, we will be stuck. And who's going to finance it? They just back off. See, don't believe these corporate do-gooders. I'm sorry to tell you that. They tell stories.
No, this wasn't really, Dr. Shastri, isn't about do-gooding. This is really figuring out, because see, again, you are absolutely right. It has to be cheap credit. You can't really have 22% and talk to farmers and ask 20, unless a business model is willing to pay back. The other thing, I think the point I'm making is that is really one big issue which we need to sort out to really support a concept like FarmVeda, or tech adoption, or whatever we want to do in agriculture.
Actually, FarmVeda doesn't need credit. FarmVeda needs marketing and reach. We need to expand our market.
So in order to scale up a FarmVeda, let's say this model has to be now put in UP, what Kaushalendra is now trying to do. That's where we really started discussion with Kaushalendra. What is that you'll really look forward? One is, of course, funding for CCD, isn't it?
Yes.
So that's one aspect. And then, of course, for FarmVeda, setup of a processing unit, etc., that follows after CCD really organizes farmers.
You see, there are different, so for example, if you take horticulture like mango, you may not require much working capital, because mango comes during the season and it has got a short shelf life of 2 to 4 weeks, but there is huge money to be made. So we may not require that much of working capital, but we require some investment in the ground for organizing the farmers and all that, and to set up the marketing links and to establish that thing. But if you go to long lead, like rice is a very good example, or soya bean, etc. So soya bean prices go up by 50 to 100%, not 100%, but at least 50% 4 months later. Now, if you ask the tribal farmer that you wait for 4 months and then you will get the money, he cannot. So what we do there is we, through the cooperative, we take working capital loans from the 3 organizations I mentioned, and we give only part payment to the farmers. We don't give them full, because we believe in skin in the game. And then when the price goes up, we have been doing it for 15 years, there's a handsome profit to be made. So they make good money, and we repay the interest. I mean, the federation repays the interest and the farmers get the money. So different crops and different cycles of business require different types of, now there are other kind of things which require huge investment. So there is a working capital and there is a fixed cost. So for example, if you want to set up a cotton ginning requires 5 crores. Now we have been able to, like Mr. Sridhar said, we've been able to get about somewhere between 50 lakhs to 1 crore pooled from the farmers. So if we can get a low cost, in the earlier days, some 10 years ago, donors were willing to give that kind of a low interest loan or this thing, then the cotton ginning is on and it will scale up rapidly because the base is already there. So different types of credit are required.
Sir, I have a question here.
Yeah.
Like most of the farmers, they get crop loans for raising crops. Yeah. And after the crops are harvested, they get a warehouse receipt loan or similar to that. Not for fresh produce, but others like grains and rye. And first place, if the market is ensuring or assuring payment within, say, stipulated time of, say, 5 to 7 days, do they really require a working capital?
Very good question. See, if you're talking about the regions that I have visited, because I have also looked at the macro statistics. So there are all these schemes for warehouse receipts. You look at the total value of the crops in India, about the long cycle, not the non-perishable, and look at the amount of crops put in the warehouse, it is not even 1%. There are huge problems with actually implementing them. So in our area, for example, the government says, or the scheme says, you have to put it in Central Warehouse Corporation, CWC, not even the State Warehouse Corporation. Now, the Central Warehouse Corporation for a tribal area in Uthnur and all is in Adilabad, which is 60 to 70 kilometers away. A small farmer has about 20 quintals. It doesn't fit into a truck. It doesn't fit into an auto. Now, that means that 5 of them have to get together and put it there. When you put there, there's a huge amount of paperwork. Although on paper, they will say there's a Kisan credit card, you swipe it and you put some OTP and all that. It doesn't happen. So they are not able to access it. Most of them are not able to access it except some educated and well-to-do. So it is not, so it doesn't go into the warehouse receipting scheme. You could look at the numbers. Hardly 1% of India's crops goes into the warehouse receipt scheme. This was launched long ago, 10, 15 years ago, not new.
Yeah, so considering all these challenges, so if I consider technology adoption, access to finance and market linkage, so do you feel like market linkage is on top priority, which needs to be addressed?
There are 2 types of marketing. One is commodity marketing, which is what CPD does. Commodity marketing means non-branded, semi-processed. You know, we just look at the whole tuar and make it into dal, or we take groundnut and deshell it. This is what I call commodity. So that requires one kind of approach, and the other one is Farm Veda, which is making a brand and a value-added product. So for Farm Veda and value-added products, I think the major challenge is still marketing. But for the back end, we need to have more processing units and we need to have more investment there. See,
thank you.
As long, who is going to control it? You see, in those interior areas, I'll give you an example. Since many of you are from the corporate sector, I hope I don't get slaughtered, but so I will not name the company. A very well-known company which does procurement directly from farmers, they came to the tribal area of Uthnur and set up a procurement center about 5-6 years after we had started our work. So then they found that this farmers cooperative or whatever you call it, FPO is very good. So in one bulk, we can get so much of soya bean. So they went and talked to the farmers. Now, at that time, the soya bean price was around 1,000 rupees a quintal. So the farmer said that when we sell it in March or April, we get 1,600 rupees. So why should we sell it to you at 100 rupees? So okay, do whatever you like. So in April, they went back to that company and said that now, will you buy it? They said, no, we will not buy it because the price is too high. But we have already figured out a scheme of how to get that 1,600 rupees. We don't have to go through this corporate. But their PR and their websites and their advertising and is so tremendous that the non-grassroots people are stunned by the amount of wonderful work they're farming. What did they do in Uthnur? They closed their shop and went away because they're not willing to pay 1,600 rupees. We are ambitious. We are ambitious for the poor. Garib aadmi ke jeb mein paisa jana chahiye. We are not stuck with the model.
So, doctors, any other questions? I saw somebody else raising it.
Sir, it's not a question. So in align to benefiting the farmers or transfer the price realization, so we are thinking of a minimum viable price. It should be minimum 2.5 to 3 times of the cost of production. And we already initiated discussions with Mr. Vijay Bhaskar from Mango. So we are a US-based company called DFarm. I would like to have a meeting with you, maybe.
Lovely.
Sometime if you allow us, sir.
If we are, we are allowed. You have to allow us. If we can export mangoes to America and the farmers are going to get a benefit, we are all for it.
Especially we've seen the good work you guys are doing in terms of the standardization in the product with consistency in the quality and compliances. So we are happy to associate.
Processing units there, Vijay would have told you.
Yes,
Bhaskar, we call him Bhaskar would have told you.
Yeah.
So these processing units, combined investment is about 4 crores, I think. Yeah. And some of it is through government subsidy and some of it is from the farmers. We don't give for free because we don't have it also and we don't believe in giving. So we'll be happy to export it. I mean, what is the problem? You tell us what are the export norms, the quality controls, the procedures, and we are on. We'll talk later.
Sure, sir. So we have other commodities also in plan for our distribution. So we'll definitely come. Thank you so much.
Dr. Shastri, I'm very impressed. I'll definitely be in touch with you, and we will definitely, touch base. I'm actually at the moment I'm in precision farming, and I'm investing my own money in terms of trying to increase productivity of various commodities.
We have much to learn from you, sir. We will come and learn from you.
So I am saying that if there can be a shake hand, because you see, for example, my first project was banana, where I basically increased the yield, which is average 20-25 kgs per one plant, to around about 45 kgs. Using technology. But interestingly, not just increasing it back to 45 kgs, but reduction in water of 68% and fertilizer by, pardon me, it's in Kanakpura in Bangalore. Okay.
Okay, lovely. So I'll come and visit your farm.
Yeah. So we just harvested completely. I was there. I can send some pictures for you. But the second this thing will go, those in the same place will grow. Now what we have done, because we are actually really got 68% reduction of water, we have now gone to semi-arid place like Kadapa and Kurnool, where we rain-fed this thing. So we are experimenting. We are actually putting our money. Okay.
So how does one get in touch with you? Sanjay or Kaushal?
Sanjay is very much there. And
I will just introduce each other. I'll send your,
not a problem,
send your contacts to him.
So now we have started. We have started capsicum and we have started, tomatoes and a couple of other chilies and other areas. So in and around Bangalore, also we have done one in Delhi. So that's fundamentally what we are doing. Now, incidentally, I am doing another project with NABARD. I did for the Chikmagalur district. I have basically now gone to the Tumkur district, and it has come out very well. NABARD Bangalore guys, but I'm putting all my money into it. Now, if there is a way where we can really look at it, that we can join hands, instead of doing all that experimentation, I can do with your farmers, you get your productivity, you get your increase, absolutely, and you basically sell, whatever that is, we can basically try and work out something. It seems to be an interesting proposition, and let us take it forward from there, okay?
Sure, we'll do that.
So, Dr. Shastri, let me ask you this question. The farm where the ownership is with the farmers, essentially. That's what I understand.
No. Okay, let me tell you the ownership. Yeah. So the farmers' federations, which nowadays people call as FPOs, the farmer producer organizations, is 100% with the farmers.
Yes.
Okay. CCD, nobody owns in a sense because it's an NGO.
Yeah.
Farmveda, as of now, is a private limited company, and there's nothing to hide. The funding came from Chris Gopalakrishnan, but he gave. I mean, we are very grateful to him, but he wants us to show results, so he has put in some funding, and he owns preference equity shares. He doesn't own the actual equity shares, but the preference equity amount is close to 99%. 1% is the actual equity which I have put in, which is hardly 2 lakhs. And the deal is that he doesn't want any return from his investment. He says that you make it grow and let the farmers benefit. And our vision is that, for example, the Anantapur, I'm just going back to Anantapur, Farmers Federation has some savings. So they said that they will invest their money into Farmveda. And to the extent that they invest in Farmveda, they become shareholders. So tomorrow, if we go to Uttar Pradesh farmers may invest 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs. They will get that share of Farmveda. So we wanted to become an all India organization which is owned by the farmers of India. But to kickstart it, this is the model we have started.
So my question is, in order to scale Farmveda, from, let's say, you want to really establish processing unit in Uttar Pradesh, would you be open to private investment in Farmveda?
We can discuss it, and we'll have to see how the numbers work out. We can discuss it.
Yeah, because I think one way, see, we are also trying to figure this model as to how to, I'm really, ABS is developing technology. I really want to go and help farmers adopt technology. So we are figuring out how best to really...
In the US, you have this model which we don't yet have in India. So the Google founders have controlling voting rights, but they don't have a very big share of the actual, they have this class A, class B kind of shares. As far as I know, in India, that is not allowed. So I want the control to be with the farmers so that they will, continue to benefit. The control is not given to external people, because then it is just like any other company. There are so many companies all claiming, I mean, they don't want to name them. Everybody is doing good to the farmer. All of them are doing good to the farmer, and all of them are making huge profits. और सब गरीबों का भला कर रहे हैं. ऐसा मेरे को investment नहीं चाहिए.
No. So one of the ideas which we are exploring is really form SPVs dedicated to particular region, essentially to area.
But do we allow SPVs in India? SPVs are not allowed in India, as far as I know.
No. That's we can establish a subsidiary to Farmveda essentially, and that's how you can do it. So that's what we are trying to structure it essentially.
SPVs are allowed. Sir, SPVs are allowed in India.
SPVs are allowed.
Yeah, SPVs are allowed in India, sir.
Yeah.
Which one?
And this could be a subsidiary of Farmveda where you are bringing investment to that particular investment. So it's just I think one of the issues which you are grappling with is really how to bring fund, whether to CCT or whether to really scaling up Farmveda. And that's what we are, one of the takeaway for us. That was what Mr. Tiwari suggested. Once we hear you, we'd go back and see, what we can do as far as our group is concerned, and see, if there is a way to really help you out in one or two regions, essentially. And what AVS has suggested, I think,
if it looks workable, I will invest my money also in that.
Sir, this is Hari Verma. Can I make a point?
Yes, please.
Of course, sir. Why not?
Yeah, sir. The challenge is on the money and capital and related challenges are there. I completely agree with you, sir. In terms of the banking policies and all, there's no point hoping there at all. I want to just bring it to your notice that it should work like a mutual fund. Mutual fund for a particular purpose. Mutual fund has got a limited period. Mutual fund has got an unlimited period. Both are available. Just like Mr. AVS said, it may be for a particular crop. In this crop, I am allowing investment. In that allowing of investment, you earmark very clearly that local farmers will have 60% stake. After getting a kind of a buy-in from them, because you are working in the field, you know how much they can mobilize. Rest of it, keep it open. Keep it open, and if required, you can have conditions. that out of the profit, I'm not going to pay more than 15% to you guys. You can have class A, class B, class C, and say that the profits, this is how I'm going to do. I mean, whoever is interested, let them only come. In the beginning, you say my profit can be 24%. I mean, you are not assuring anything. In mutual fund, nobody is assuring anything. People are saying that this is a risk. If you are interested to take, you take. Fortunately, sir, today you don't have even regulators. Regulators sometimes in India are extremely good. I have a great regard for Reserve Bank of India, which does fabulous job for India in terms of financial crisis. There are regulators who are basically useless being other than today. You don't have even regulators. When you're working at that level, you should create mutual fund, and you should be the farm weather should be the mutual fund manager. You should get commission, 5%, 10% commission for the overall money that you made, and you redistribute back.
You become our consultant or advisor, and we'll do it, sir.
I will certainly do that, sir.
Because we don't have the bandwidth to manage a mutual fund. But let's talk. We'll talk. Tarvat Matardam. We'll talk.
Certainly, sir.
Professor Shastri, Hari has come out with an excellent model for dairy farming, which is, I think, he has real good merit in it. I think these are the ideas which we need to really understand and see how, as a group, people who are interested in.
Just for your information, sir, we are the technology providers for dairy companies in India. Karnataka Nandini is our customer. Tamil Nadu, entire Avin, across the state, they are our customers. Telangana Dairy is our customer, right from collecting milk from the farmer till it reaches the end consumer. You talked about marketing. We have an excellent mobile platform which can connect. I mean, we support D2C as well as B2B. I'm ready to.
What's the name of your organization?
Vasistha Enterprise Solutions Private Limited.
What enterprises?
Vasistha Enterprise Solutions Private Limited.
I think I've heard of you.
Sir, and we have the extension models. The veterinarians go and give artificial insemination, basically the cattle feed, all these things which are given to the farmer, each farmer-wise accounting. We are a group of chartered accountants at IITians. As far as the accounting and ERP, which is going to be the backbone for this, which is going to be the governance body, tech-driven governance body. Yeah, we have the platform ready. So, and sir, my advice to you, I mean, I do not know, I'm ready to take it forward within our means. I mean, we are also a small startup. Within our means, we would be glad to do that. But other day I was discussing with Sanjay. I think you should, I mean, wherever possible, again, there are a number of conditions. I think wherever possible, if you can include dairy plus cultivation. Again, I have a lot of thoughts on this process, sir. I mean, because at the end of the day, capital should freely flow into your company. Capital should not be the limit. Capital should not be the limit.
Let us discuss it.
Absolutely,
may I suggest something if that works essentially? AVS, when are you back in India? What time frame? You're on mute.
Sorry, March, I think I will be in India.
Okay.
So what
no, but yeah. I can actually, I'm available anytime on Zoom or whatever that is. We can start. My guys are there. I have a business head. So my company's name is Digite, D-I-G-I-T-E. And Chris anyway knows me personally very well. So Chris Gopalakrishnan. So anyway, I mean, but that aside, we can basically discuss.
I think what I can suggest is one thing is we can take some of the ideas which you have thrown in, stuff like, what Hari is working on, see, where we can really pull together a financing or funding model and how best we can really work on that. One of the suggestions I would have is once AVS is in India, some of us really get together, I think this is really these are amazing models. So FarmVeda is absolutely beautiful model. What AVS is doing is fantastic. What Hari has put together is amazing. I mean, Hari's presentation is amazing. The work which they have done in dairy farming is out of the world. This concept of mutual fund it strikes essentially immediately. And once you hear, you say, yeah, there is merit in it. We can really come together with a model and say, well, this is how we can really take it to the private sector and raise funds. Professor Shastri, I don't see there is an issue in raising fund if there is an investment, return on investment given back to it. There's enough money with people essentially. So we need to figure out how to really draw that money into an organization like FarmVeda or into an organization like what Hari is trying to do. I think that is what, to me, is one of the critical issues for us, essentially.
Yeah, the trick is, the basic issue I think Professor Shastri is facing is like me, is how do I raise money without losing control? See, that's the key thing.
No, I don't want control.
Okay.
I'm happy to give up control.
No, I understand that.
You
want more money to the farmers.
To have control.
I understand that. You want more money to the farmers. But then today you are able to basically actually really have control of that because you are in control of your destiny. But the moment you basically get in a lot more people into the system, and where you are like someone said, voting rights, etc., this thing becomes then you are not able to control the kind of money which has to go. Then it becomes like ITC Foods or Nestle or something else. So the question comes is, how do we develop a model where one doesn't lose the control, at the same time is able to actually really raise enough capital to be able to really take it forward and scale? That's the basic point.
Yeah, AVS, we should really study SPV. I'll put together a note on SPV and circulate to you guys and see how that works essentially. I think it's a great model where you, without losing control, you can really do a return on investment to the investors of the SPV, as well as really do whatever you want to do on the farming or whatever company you are establishing, essentially.
Wonderful.
But I think we'll change.
Sanjay, if you can give me an opportunity to present the case.
Yes.
Maybe I want to extensively cover what I mean. I mean, if it is hopefully if it is useful for this group.
What we can do is, Hari, I think I definitely would like you to really present, because AVS, this is by the way, Hari has not introduced him properly. He has extensive work experience with RBI, with regulators and financial community for ages. He's a chartered accountant himself. Sure. And for last several years, they were, working with dairy farming and figuring out the entire model from collection to distribution to basically consumer. So that's why he was talking about how to really help FarmVeda for marketing. Maybe if you all of you are okay to really hear him, I can organize another session in a week's time, because I think it is just about really figuring out the right models which we can take and say, well, if this got stitched together, this will have far more value essentially, and we can raise far more funding as well as helping entities like FarmVeda or entities like what Hari is trying to do.
Good. My thought is coming from Dr. Trilochan Shastri sir's motivation from Amul. I mean, having worked in that segment, having given technology to them, having done their right from the village cooperative till the unions as well as federation balance sheets and the financial flow, and their marketing aspects, because every day milk is reaching every house and it is reaching through our application. Today, 1 crore liters of milk is passing through our system every day across India, sir. So, I mean, I want to share our experiences, and I am very passionate about this particular subject, sir, especially on how to empower farmers. And I have some ideas on that. I mean, I'm definitely, other than, as a part of my job going to that, I've never worked like Trilochan Shastri ji on the ground. I want to admit that. But I know little because during my early stages of my life, we had 3 acres of land, and basically me, my father, we used to basically manage. Well, to some extent I know, I mean, though not like a real farmer, I understand we have cultivated paddy and basically other dry crops during the summer and all. I know little about it. I definitely do not boast of having, but because of these things, I always felt throughout my journey, I always felt that as a chartered accountant, as a finance person, can I solve the finance problem of the farmer? How can it get solved is what I have some thoughts. I mean, given an opportunity, I would like to present.
Sure. So let me drop off. I have another meeting.
Yes, Sanjay, I have a very early morning flight to catch.
Nice talking to you.
I think we are done. We're done. I think we are. I'll just wrap it up. Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up, Kaushalendra. I think we had excellent conversation. We've taken a couple of inputs from the discussion from what Dr. Shastri has said. What is the problem? One of the problems which we need to sort out, 2 problems. Marketing on one side, funding on the other side. That's basically 2 major work points. We'll get together. We'll introduce each other. Essentially, I'll forward the list to whoever is interested. Please tell me. I'll get Dr. Shastri's contact and pass it on to Dr. Shastri, the contacts of relevant people. And we can have another session with Hari. We'll just organize it. Thank you, Dr. Shastri. It was very, very useful. At least we will definitely try to help you in whichever way we can and figure out a model and connect people who are interested in working with you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
thank you so much for really attending the session.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Sanjay sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kaushalendra, and thank you, Shastri sir. This is quoted from Deep Farm. I'll definitely connect with you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.